Hello and welcome to the session on types of learning disabilities. Reading disorder or dyslexia. The art of reading may be defined as the process of sight, sound and sense. It is a cognitive activity, a meaning-oriented, language-oriented process. As a perceptual process, reading is defined as a meaningful memory and interpretation of visual and auditory stimuli. Deficiencies in reading were among the first to be associated with what are now called learning disabilities. Assessment of learning disabilities is a prerequisite for planning intervention programs. Assessment of reading disability can be classified as formal assessment and informal assessment. Various measures are used to verify important facts of assessment. The tests that are useful and effective for formal types of assessment are standardized test and criterion reference tests. Standardized tests. These tests of reading provide results that can be compared to the standardization samples. Some important standardized tests are the diagnostic reading scales, dural analysis of reading tests, the Glimmo oral reading test, etc. Criterion reference tests. They emphasize a student's ability in relation to fixed criteria rather than in comparison with achievement of a standardized population. The assumption underlying criterion reference tests in the area of reading is that there is a series of sequenced skills that may be placed in a hierarchy from simple to complex. The student is tested to determine mastery of each of the objectives or skills in the hierarchy. Reading problems of disabled readers. A slower rate of progress, poor comprehension, poor sight recognition and too rapid careless reading. Types of reading problems. Visual dyslexia. Children having visual dyslexia feel difficulty in translating written letters into sounds. They are confused by letters with similar configuration. Example: H, N, I, J, V, W, N, M, and feel difficulty to differentiate between the words. Example: bad, bed, fan, fun, etc. Auditory dyslexia. Children having auditory dyslexia feel difficulty in grasping the meaning of sound. One of the most noteworthy characteristics of these children is auditory discrimination problem. They cannot distinguish between M and N, P and D, man and mat, car and can, beck and bag, tank and sank, etc. Some children experience difficulties with certain sounds, while other children have problems with only initial or final consonant sounds. Sound blending. Sound blending is the ability to synthesize sounds into a complete word. Children with this difficulty are unable to blend M-A-T into word mat. The three phonemes of this word remain as separate sound. Memory skills. Children with memory disturbances feel difficulty in recalling information. Mostly, it is associated with various visual or auditory processes. Auditory memory problems may affect a child's ability to remember letter sounds and also the ability to blend these sounds into a word. On the other hand, a child with visual memory deficits may be unable to recognize a specific letter or word. Sequential memory deficits must also be discussed as a component of the memory process. Many children have difficulty to remember the order of letters in word, the sequence of sound within a word and a sequence of words within sentence. Letter and word reversals. A widely discussed problem of children with reading disabilities is the tendency to read some letters and words backward, rotated or inverted. Single letters such as B, D, P, Q, N, U, M and W are often read upside down and backwards. LD children are also observed reversing whole words, example, so for was, parts of words, for example, to for to, and initial letters, for example, big for dig. Critical reading skills. Critical reading is a type of comprehension which involves critical and value judgments based on the attitude and experiences of the reader. Critical reading includes judging accuracy, drawing conclusions, evaluating the author's intention, etc. Remediation. There are certain principles of remediation developed for guiding the teachers of learning disabled children in the selection of materials and methods. Students are better motivated when things are meaningful. This can be accomplished by explaining the relevance to them, allowing them to have a voice in aspects such as objective, procedures or rate, and by relating reading materials to their interest and experiences. Students are more likely to learn if formats or mode of presentation are varied. It is possible for teachers to plan for incidental learning. Students are more likely to learn if they understand the goals of the teacher. The teacher should explain the objectives more than once and point out the relationship immediately. Students need to have the prerequisite skills to accomplish more complex tasks. Teachers should analyze tasks and sequence them from easy to difficult, including all the skills. Children often learn more efficiently and they have a model to observe and imitate. Students are more likely to learn if they are active learners, that is, if they participate in the activities designed to reach the varied objectives. To be an active learner, the student must understand what to do and why to do. Students learn more easily if the learning conditions are pleasant. These include temperature, noise level, and avoidance of frustration and the boredom of unnecessary repetitions. Students must have sufficient input, that is teaching, to provide output, that is demonstration of task mastery. Teachers' expectation with regard to how much practice is needed must synchronize with the students. In keyword approach, exercises are given where children need to pick out the keywords from the paragraphs of the lesson. This helps them to understand and remember the content of the lesson more easily. The development of basic sight vocabulary, that is, words which should be read at sight without effort. Example, words like on, for, of, is, etc. will helpful to speed up the process of reading. In any book, 20% of words are sight words. Phonic method is extremely useful when there is difficulty with phoneme-grapheme correspondence. The child is taught the sounds of letters and then encouraged to blend these into words. For example, dog as d, o and g. Writing disabilities or dysgraphia. Writing is transmitting thoughts into paper. It is a very important skill, particularly during the school years. Types of writing disabilities are the following. Handwriting. It is the most concrete of all the basic academic skills. Handwriting deficits have been referred to as visual motor integration problems. Some children with handwriting deficits are unable to hold a pencil, while others have problem in writing certain letters. Spelling. It is frequently a more sensitive indicator of learning disabilities than other problems. Some common spelling errors are addition of unneeded letters, omission of needed letters, reversal of whole word, reversal of vowels, reversal of consonants, and wrong association of sound, etc. Motor memory. Word may be recalled in a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic manner. LD children often lack the ability to remember the kinesthetic feel of a word. During movement of hand in writing, certain words are totally forgotten by these children. Writing expression. Most written expression problems are found among young children beyond the second grade. They are unable to utilize the written form of language as an effective means of communication. Some are unable to transfer ideas in written form, while others make grammar and syntax errors. Expression of ideas. In this problem, children are unable to organize thoughts into proper form for communication. Many children who can orally articulate their thoughts fail totally to communicate in a logical writing style. Syntax and grammar. The children with written syntax problems are able to express their thoughts in writing. However, numerous syntax and grammar errors totally distort their written output. Some of the more frequent written syntax errors are word omission, distorted word order, incorrect verb and pronoun usage, lack of punctuation, etc. Inadequate vocabulary. Vocabulary is most important for adequate written expression. Some LD children have poor vocabularies because of impoverished oral language background. Remedial measures are methods for developing handwriting skills. Tracing folds. The teacher should instruct the children to fold a paper into various patterns such as squares, rectangles, etc. Then the paper should be unfolded and the child should trace with his index finger the remaining traces of the fold. Drawing roads. Various patterns that might represent straight or curved roads should be cut from stencils. In the beginning, these patterns can be relatively wider as much as 1 inch. Tracing with copy paper. Various figures should be drawn with dark felt tipped pens or standardized size paper or heavy weight construction paper. Onion skin paper through which these patterns can be seen should be placed over the copy form and the child should be directed to trace on the copy paper. Dot-to-dot figures. A complete figure should be drawn first. Then a dot-to-dot figure is provided so that the children can complete to develop a similar figure. They will develop in learning disabled child the required motor skill for writing. Once a child learns a technique, the complete or model figure should be discontinued. Methods for remediation of spelling difficulties. The Fernald VAKT approach, that is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile. It is of great value in remediation of spelling disabilities. Tactile and kinesthetic cues help the student learn to spell correctly. Analysis of spelling errors. It can be seen that some students have spelling difficulties with nearly all words, while some others have with only non-phonetic words. It becomes an important step for the teacher to make an analysis of the type of spelling errors. Attention-getting technique. It is a fact that learning disabled children have more attention difficulties than the normal population. This warrants ample use of a wide variety of attention-getting techniques along with other procedures. Remedial programs for written language difficulties. Improving students' motivation for written expression. Positive attitude is very essential for writing improvement. Allow them to develop creativity and writing fluency. Opportunities for expressive writing should be provided and the activities should be carefully chosen. Assignment should stimulate the generation of ideas by calling on students' prior experiences, personal interests, or by providing motivating topics. Story starters are also useful here. Improving general writing mechanics. Teacher can develop individualized programs to allow students to progress at their own pace. Increasing written productivity. To measure students' productivity, the teacher must collect several written samples. One basic intervention strategy is to tell students to increase their use of deficient target structure. Improving compositions. To improve skill in composition, the teacher has to use many patterns such as story structure, comparison contrast, and expository texts. Although story structure is one type of organization schemes, other writing schemes are available for different writing purposes. These schemes include description, comparison, contrast, etc. Arithmetic disability or dyscalculia. The awareness of a specific deficit in mathematical skills began in the early 1900s when neurologists observed the loss of certain types of focal lesions in the brain. In 1937, a disorder called congenital arithmetic disability was identified. This disorder was described as an important factor in arithmetic disabilities that was developmental rather than acquired. Types. Shape discrimination. Children's difficulties with shapes might affect later recognition of specific numbers. Many LD children incorrectly perceive number shapes, example 6 as 9 and 3 as 8. Size discrimination. This problem is very common in LD children. Contrary geometric concepts such as big, small, long and short, and abstract numerical concepts such as more and less cannot be understood by these children. All complex quantitative skills are based upon the ability to discriminate between different sizes. Sets and numbers. A set is a well-defined collection or group of objects. Everything that belongs to the set is an element or number of set. Many LD children are unable to understand the concept of a set. It is difficult for them to recognize the commonalities that distinguish a box of crayons, a bowl of apples, and a group of boys as 3 sets. Counting. Counting is the first step in arithmetic training. Many children who are unable to count meaningfully are later hindered in the basic computational skills of addition and subtraction. Children with this difficulty of tens key numbers when counting along 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 11 examples. Others count correctly but without understanding that each number corresponds to a particular element in a set. Auditory-Visual Association. These children have difficulties in relating what they see visually with what they know auditorily. They feel difficulty with associating the spoken word 6 with the written symbol 6 or even written word 6. Place value. An understanding of the concept of place value is basic to many mathematical functions. Many LD children do not grasp the idea that the same digit, for example 4, may denote different degree of magnitude according to its place in the numeral, example 4.7, 14 or 422. The child with place value difficulty might not understand the reason that 47 is not just 4 and 7, nor he understand the significance involved in reversing 47 into 74. Computational skills. Some children have specific problems with the fundamental arithmetic processes of addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. Many of these computational problems are due to difficulties with the fundamental skills of the one-to-one correspondence, counting and set notation. Measurement. The idea that some objects are taller, shorter, larger or smaller than other objects is one of the very first principles of measurement that might prove confusing to some children. The use of number lines and rulers which involve the principles of measurement is an additional area of difficulty for many LD children. Quantitative language. Difficulty in understanding such quantitative concepts as more, less, before, after, big, little, larger, fewer, than, as many as, etc., are often an early indicator of later mathematical disabilities. Operational signs are an additional quantitative language consideration causing confusion for some children. Some cannot differentiate A plus from A minus, others find it difficult to perceive particular symbols as a whole. The equal sign perceived by some children as two subtraction signs. The quantitative language disabilities seem to affect mathematical achievement at all levels from preschool through secondary levels. Individualizing mathematics instruction for learning disabled. Individualized approaches for the learning disabled focus on two aspects: pacing of content coverage and modality of presentation. More emphasis is placed on the former than the latter. The main reason for the emphasis on pacing is the availability of materials. A critical review of commercially produced individualized materials reveals that most of them individualize with regard to pacing. That is, all the students are supposed to learn the same content in the same sequence, presented in the same way, but at their own speed. Procedure for the classroom teacher. The classroom teacher can assist the learning disabled students in mathematics learning in at least 3 ways: by establishing a whole class routine that allows for individualization, by ensuring that the learning disabled student is placed at the appropriate level within the scope and sequence of skills, by effectuating minor adaptations in the way instruction is presented. If a student is in need of reteaching on a skill, the teacher should carefully observe the student's written work and oral responses to instruction, since these may indicate what types of adaptations are necessary. Adaptations in presentation of instruction can be made by the teacher in 3 ways. They are providing additional practice, providing performance cues, and using interactive unit. Conclusion. Children with learning disorders are children with special educational needs. The current scientific approach is to enable these children to integrate into the mainstream educational infrastructure. This concept of inclusive education is the objective of forward-looking educational boards all over the world to enable education for all. If I can't learn the way you teach, will you teach me the way I can? This is a cry inside the heart of each learning disabled child. The teachers and parents must give their ears to this. The teacher may be the first person to identify a child with learning problems and to diagnose this as learning disorder. The support for these children needs to be both educational and emotional. It is only the teacher who can facilitate this emotional component to make the environment encouraging and friendly. Children with special needs must be flourished in the warmth of that environment instead of feeling repelled. Let us summarize what we have discussed so far. In this chapter, we discussed different types of learning disabilities such as dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. Among reading disorders, its different types are discussed with examples. The chapter analyzes the various remedial measures for dyslexia too. We have then discussed dysgraphia, which are writing disabilities. Types of writing disorders along with its remedial measures and programs were explained. It is followed by a detailed description of the arithmetic disability, that is dyscalculia. Its various types and individualized mathematical instruction for LD were also discussed. Now we can try to answer the questions given here. What are the different types of dyslexia? How can we remediate the problem of dyslexia? What are the difference between visual dyslexia and auditory dyslexia? What is dysgraphia? Discuss the various types of writing disabilities. What are the remedial measures for the problem of dysgraphia? Explain Dyscalculia and its major types. Now you may go through the reference books for further understanding. The Science of Learning Disabilities by K. A. Cavalier and S. R. Fornes, San Diego, College Hill in the year 1985. Learning Disabilities by J. Lerner, Huntington Milton, Boston in the year 1985. Learning Disabilities, J. J. McCarthy and J. F. McCarthy, Boston, Alley and Bacon in the year 1971. Hope that you have enjoyed the session. We can meet again with another topic. Thank you.